Hey, this is Joe Dombrowski from MLW JCW and ProWrestlingLibrary.com. And when I want to kick back and enjoy some classic content, I like to do it when I'm drinking at Moe's.
Drinking at Moe's, where we talk about the pros of pro wrestling in the Midwest while sipping on some brews with blessed beers and wrestling. That's my scene. Death matches and lucha libre, it's all so mean. I'm a straight up smart goofball, not no kiss ass. I stand tall when it comes to wrestling. I'm the king. I know every move, every fling. Get ready for a wild time with Drinking at Moe's, where we don't quit. Drinking at Moe's, that's where it's at, like a power bomb. We hit hard, never flat. Fucking right, we're living the dream. Talking about wrestling, know it's a scream.
You know, I've always said here at Drinkinatmos, just because it says drinking at Moe's does not mean it has to be alcoholic. So I'm happy to say Drinking at Moe's is sponsored by Prince Nana Coffee. The exact same guy you see every week on Dynamite, on Collision. Yes, he has his own coffee, and it's freaking delicious. They don't even roast those beans until you've placed your order. And you might be telling me, hey, Big Mo, I'm more of a tea guy. They got you covered there too. Use the referral link in the description of this video. And let's get you dancing like Prince Nana with Prince Nana Coffee. All right, everybody, welcome Drinking at Moe's. Big Mo here, you know the drill. YouTube, like, subscribe, share, comment, all that good stuff everybody says, because YouTube's algorithm is a pain in the ass. Where most places you can find the audio podcast too. Today, I'm excited to have with me a voice of MLW, Juggalo Championship Wrestling, and behind, damn it, ProWrestlingLibrary.com. I get to talking too fast sometimes and get tongue-tied. ProWrestlingLibrary.com. Somebody I've been wanting to get on for a little bit. We got him on now. Joe Dombrowski, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I appreciate it. And a lot of times I get tongue-tied talking about my own career. So I understand that. But happy for the platform and happy to be here talking with you.
Oh, yeah. I remember when I was getting back into watching MLW, because I had gotten away from some independent wrestling for a while because, well, when I started the podcast, there was a personal situation. My wife and I, we lost twin girls. There was a point I didn't know if I'd continue the podcast. But then I started getting back into MLW. I'd hear you on commentary, and man, before we get too deep into it, MLW is just been on fire. We'll go into that a little more later, but the first thing I'd like to start off with everybody with one of the only real, air quotes, stereotypical questions that I really ask. What got you started as a fan, and then what got you making the leap into the business, being the voice of places like MLW and Juggalo Championship Wrestling?
I don't have a clear answer on why I became a fan. My earliest memory is watching an interview with Bobby Heenan and Andre the Giant back in what would have been the spring of 1991. Andre had left Bobby at that point. They were, I believe, shaking hands, and Andre was squeezing just a bit too tight, and Heenan was on all fours, begging and pleading, and in an immense amount of pain. And I can't tell you if that's for sure the first thing I ever watched from wrestling. It's the first thing I can remember watching. What was it about that kept me transfixed? I don't know, but I'm willing to bet that once I kept going with it, just the combination of the bright lights and the bold colors and the over-the-top characters,
No.
the WWF in 1991 was absolutely made for people my age,
Oh yeah.
which makes sense because I said the exact same thing in 1998. I feel like I grew up as the company's creative grew up. I don't know how to put it, but um, that got the hook into me deep. And my first magazine, my first VHS tape, my first action figures, all around that WrestleMania 7 time period. And I've been hyper fixated on it ever since. And at some point, I made the realization that I want to do this. I want to get involved. And my first job in the business was technically a co-promoter because I had middlemanned a wrestling event to my high school when I was 17 years old as a fundraiser for my Spanish class. And that was also my first taste of commentary. That was my first taste of hanging posters, slinging tickets, paying dues, all that stuff. And if it had ended right there that night, would have still been the happiest kid that there was because I did it. I lived my dream. I made it happen. I manifested it. And I've been lucky enough that open door led to more and more and more, and it's been just a slippery slope ever since. And I'm in it deeper than ever now, 23 years later, and hoping I got a lot more left in me.
Oh, you're doing amazing stuff. I know, much like you, that's kind of how same era that I got started watching wrestling and becoming a fan, seeing the guys with the wild colors and the crowd reactions, like the Ultimate Warrior, the Road Warriors. People, talked bad about him for a while, but Hogan, for what he was back then, was like he drew people in. And just seeing the crowd reactions as I was a little kid, I was just like, this is the coolest thing ever. And, my parents probably hoping that I'd grow out of it. And really, I didn't.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard the old, well, we thought it was just a phase, but
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if it is, hey, any day now, I could snap out of it and move on
Yeah.
to golf or something. I don't know, but
Okay.
I feel like I'm in too deep. If I got out now, I don't know what I'd do.
Yeah. No, that would be much along the same lines for me because, yeah, I'm sure my parents would have loved it if I grew out of it a long time ago. Hell, they told me at one point, do you really think you're ever going to meet anybody at those shows? Well, lo and behold, I actually met my wife at a show. She was helping out a friend at his promotion at the merch table. One of my best friends that's a wrestler for the guy said, hey, I got somebody I want you to meet. And now here we are, got married in 2019, and now we got a little one that just turned a year old last month. And I remember talking to my dad on the wedding day, laughing and be like, yeah, I remember when you told me that. Now look at me.
Very good. Yeah, probably not the most common story, but it was meant to be.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, while you were talking right there, I've been looking behind you there and I'm seeing the figure collection back there. I, can't see too much of my wrestling collection. That's more up top there where I got like my signed stuff. But that's a nice collection you got back there.
I mean, action figures were a huge part of my childhood, and being an only child, and being a sheltered child, and being a very reserved child who did not have the best confidence. Those are my friends. Those are my people. That's how
Oh,
I explored creatively. That's how I created. That's how I codified the passion I have for this,
Oh,
and I put on events, and I can remember like hearing other kids talk about like, oh, hey, we're gonna go play wrestlers, and I'm thinking like, I like couldn't compute that term, like play, like okay, yeah, that's technically what it is, but I just never
yeah,
approached it like that. I never thought of it like that. To me, I'm like I'm staging events. I'm like I'm making something. I'm like to me it was just so much deeper in thought, and
yeah.
whether that was just completely invented in my own head or whether I was just that much into it. Either way, like that you know, technically the first shows I booked were with action figures. The first shows I commentated were with action figures. I would uh, have these matches with these figures, and I would be Monsoon, and I would be Heenan, and I would sit there and I would argue with myself. And there's only two ways that happens: is either you become a sociopath or you are so into wrestling that just as illogical as it is, it just works. And it was a major, major part of that passion and the way I expressed it for a lot of years.
Oh yeah. No, I can understand that. I know I definitely had, you know, I didn't have the setup that I have now back when I was younger, but definitely all the wrestling figures that I collected, and hell, maybe even using some of the non-wrestling stuff and having matches between everybody, and it just you can get rather creative with the
There's
different people.
only limits are your own imagination.
That is very true. And coming up with being, doing commentary while you're, talking through all the stuff for those matches, led me to another point I was going to talk to you about, it like the importance of good commentary during pro wrestling shows, because like, you know, when you're having people there live, that's one experience, but and it's special. Like people, there's just something unexplainable about that's how special pro wrestling live is. But you on and everybody on commentary, you are the window into the live experience for those watching at home, and like the storytelling aspect that you get a real sense being there live. You might not get that sense at home, but then there's also that being there live, you don't get that commentary, so you're also maybe, and hell, I know I've done it where um I'd gone to a nationally televised show, and I'll have it recorded on DVR and I'll go watch it back just to hear what the commentary was during the matches. What is your importance on, because that's an important job in the aspect of a pro wrestling show that sometimes goes a little unsung.
Well, I think the ironic part of it is, and I've discussed this with um, referee friends as well, is that when we're doing our job the best, you don't notice us. You
That
know,
that yeah.
we're there. We're not there to make it about us.
Yeah.
If it's about us, we're doing something drastically wrong, or there's something in the ring drastically wrong.
It,
Maybe
it,
both.
that is true. That is very,
So
very true.
it's one of those things where we are there to enhance. We're here to build up. We're here
Yeah.
to contextualize. Um, Jim Ross had the best way to put it when he said that we are the lyrics to the music being made in the ring. And it alarmed me when I first realized how many on an independent level just didn't take this seriously and used it as their stand-up comedy audition or used it to try to make their friends in the back laugh or just try to parrot what they heard on TV without much rhyme or reason to it. Um, we're storytellers. And no matter what I'm doing, whether I'm doing a live special that's going out across the entire internet or whether I'm doing um, a small company with 50 people in the crowd. Um, Either way, that's somebody's first time watching that product. Maybe their first time watching independent wrestling.
It
Uh,
could be.
who knows? But it's my job to make sure that we're all along for the ride. And, we're all on the tour bus together. And if I'm going to tell you, look out your window now, and here's what you're going to see, um, I better be able to tell you where we are, how we got here, where we're going, and what the people involved are trying to accomplish. Um, you know, everybody has eyes. I don't need to call every move. You can see the vertical suplex, but I need to make sure you understand why that vertical suplex is happening. Why is that person doing it? What's the end goal? And there's so much layer and nuance to it. And one thing I did pick up on very early, and it probably sounded very cocky at the time. I probably didn't say it out loud, but in hindsight, it's 100% true. Is I got to a point very early where I realized that there was very little I could learn about the job from the people around me. And that's just because the people around me didn't do it. That's why I was there. They could tell me certain things about match psychology and about, what to say, what not to say, things like that. But there's so much little nuance to it that I could talk to a Jim Ross or a Kevin Kelly or a Tony Schiavone or somebody like that, and they would understand and they would be able to nitpick to that level, where somebody that just hadn't done it simply couldn't. And that was, I think, the big challenge in um, reaching to higher and higher plateaus is I had to seek out the advice and seek out the relationships because they weren't in the locker room with me. Because the locker room I was with was, there were normally two commentators, and I was one of them, and the other one was the color analyst, and oftentimes it was a manager, or oftentimes it was a mouthpiece, or just somebody whose responsibilities were similar, but certainly not the same job. So it's difficult once you get to that certain plateau, to find a way to keep growing and learning. But I always told myself, if, do I have $1 million in the bank account yet? Nope. Well, then there's still something to learn. So might as well go out there and find it.
That's the beauty of like lots of different aspects of the pro wrestling business. It's an ever evolving, ever learning process, and there's always something to learn.
Well, the thing is that wrestling is art. It is not science. So there is not one specific correct answer. The correct answer is whatever works better in that moment. In my respect, it's whatever works better to connect the match to emotionally. In a promoter sense, it's whatever will sell the most tickets, draw the most money. I would not call a Rock and Roll Express match in Raleigh, North Carolina, the same way I would do a death match tournament. And I wouldn't call that the same way I would do a women's card, and I wouldn't do that the same way I do lucha. Everything is different and everything is circumstantial. And that, again, it's the art of doing that and figuring out just what works and what doesn't, and when and why. And it's one of those businesses where if you ever truly do stop learning, that tells me that your heart's not in it. You should get out.
That that would be one thing that would definitely make that happen. Now, one promotion, you were bringing up all the different aspects of wrestling, and one place that, I mentioned the place that actually got me introduced to you with MLW. They have little bit of freaking everything. They got the lucha with the working relationships that they have there. The great women's wrestling. I've seen crazy stuff with, like the likes of Matthew Justice and stuff where, some of the matches that he's had with the likes of the former second gear crew, where when I've met all three of them and I told them jokingly that their matches might as well be sponsored by Home Depot. And they all laugh. They love that one. But there's that little mix of everything there. And MLW is on a bit of a hot streak with all of the consecutive sellout shows, good quality shows all over the place. Like I just saw the post about the upcoming Chicago show getting sold out. That's awesome. I'm loving
Yeah.
seeing that.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, what makes MLW so great is it's a hybrid of everything, every aspect of wrestling. You're going to get some of that violence. You're going to get some of that lucha libre. You're going to get, big hoss fights. You're going to get marquee stars. You're going to get, some MMA type stylings as well. There's really nothing that's off limits, and there's nobody that's off limits. The relationships that MLW has forged and grown with CMLL and New Japan and Tokyo Joshi Pro, and the list goes on of talent that's been in and out. And that's the exciting thing. We're counting down to Battle Riot coming up at the end of the month in Kissimmee, Florida, and that is arguably MLW's signature show. It's a 40 athlete gauntlet style rumble where pinfalls count as well as over the top rope and submissions, and weapons are encouraged. And that's always so much fun because the combatants aren't necessarily limited to, well, who's under contract? Well, who's in the system? Um, it can be a rookie, a legend, an international star, somebody you never expected to see. I mean, we've had surprise entrants in Battle Riot everywhere from Minoru Suzuki to Duke the Dumpster Drosy and everywhere in between.
Oh yeah.
But that's what makes it so fun and so unpredictable. And when you've got guys who make up the regular roster, like, Matt Riddle and Hammerstone and Dijak and Dyer, and now Killer Cross is back in the fold. And
Loving that.
you got guys from CMLL like Volador Jr. and Templario and Mystico. You got guys from Japan like Kushida. Satoshi Kojima, of course, Okumura. Coming from anywhere and everywhere to be a part of this. And a lot of that variety, I think, is a huge reason for those sellouts. We sold out every event in a row for, I think, a year and a half, something like that. It's insane to think about, in a market this saturated with this much wrestling. You do not have to put it forth any effort to see wrestling. It is all over the place.
Oh yeah.
But for us to be able to still rise above and overshoot projections and have a sellout like that, Cicero Stadium is such a passionate fan base. I don't know if people who are not familiar with Chicago are aware of what a large Latino community there is, and by proxy, a large Lucha Libre fan base. that has helped so many athletes, U.S. and Mexico, kind of make that transition between the two styles. And to see those fans, come out again, one of the biggest and most visited wrestling markets in the country, to show that
Oh yeah.
support. It's incredible, and I just hope the momentum keeps rolling. Excuse me, and I hope that I can be along for that ride and continue to do what I do best to hopefully make that a little bit more enjoyable if you're a first time fan jumping on, and give you a reason to join on the ride with us.
Oh, definitely. That Battle Riot, definitely one of my favorite events, and definitely one of those few and far between, like, very unique aspects, because you get the battle royal stuff, but then you also have regular pinfalls and submissions and weapons that in the stereotypical battle royal you don't really get. And then another thing, a very historic tournament that I'll admit, before I got introduced to MLW, I might not have been that aware of, but the Opera Cup. And getting introduced and hearing about the lineage and the history behind that, for those that might not be as familiar with MLW, that they definitely should be, explain to them the Opera Cup and some of the history there. Is this like the oldest tournament, right?
I think technically it would have to be, yeah. And for those that are unaware, I would say don't be concerned about that. Don't be alarmed, because until I jumped into things in MLW, I really wasn't all that familiar with it either, because the last one before the MLW era took place, from what I understand, in 1948. So there's not any footage of it in existence. There's really not much of any record of it. So unfortunately, a lot of our business's history is, lost to time, be it video that wasn't saved or records that maybe weren't the best kept and preserved. But the Opera Cup dates back to the 1880s, and it speaks to a tournament of wrestling's, premier athletes that were held in fancy opera houses with the bright lights shining down on them, and it was more than just a wrestling event. It was an experience. It was an event. It was, dare I say, cultured. And that's where names like George Hackenschmidt and William Muldoon, and later on Stu Hart, were able to build a reputation for themselves, in these opera houses. And then, when that era kind of went away, now wrestling is married to the brand new invention of TV, and we kind of move on and we stray away from the opera houses, and we're in the arenas, and the NWA is becoming a thing. There's a time of rapid change. Um, Fast forward, whatever it is, 60 years, and Stu Hart, the last winner of the Opera Cup, by way of Davey Boy Smith Jr., who would be his, what, grandson?
I want to say, yeah, grandson.
Yeah. Um, the Hart family is easier to figure out than the Samoan family. The Samoan family is a
Yeah,
lot
yeah, a
more.
little bit there, yeah.
But yeah, Davey Boy Smith Jr. kind of spearheads it coming out of retirement, and we see, the Opera Cup become an annual tradition. And I think over time, a lot of people have watched the WWF and called the Intercontinental title the workhorse title. I would call the Opera Cup the workhorse tournament,
Definitely.
because you've got, Davey Boy Smith Jr., you've got Filthy Tom Lawler, you've got Mystico. I mean, Mystico and Kenta in the finals last year, and then
Oh, that was amazing.
Mystico and Volador this year, which is a rivalry that goes back 20 plus years. You're going to see the best bell to bell athletes do what they do best in this tournament, and it gives it a whole new identity. It gives them a whole new purpose. And Opera Cup, without this MLW addendum to the story would have probably been lost to time. We would be, we'd be hearing about it from people that have vague memories of it, like how people ask me, is there any footage left from the Pittsburgh studio wrestling days? And like, no, I've never seen a second of it. Oh, have you ever seen an Opera Cup tournament? Nope, never heard of it. But now MLW gets to reintroduce it to a whole new generation of fans, and here's why it's special. Here's why it means something. Here's the tradition behind it, and here's what it means into the future as it takes on a whole new purpose.
Oh yeah, no, definitely a great experience to get to learn about wrestling history alone during the Opera Cup season. And another promotion. I mean, you're wearing a shirt of theirs right now that I've been lucky enough to get to talk to a few people that consider themselves juggalos. And Juggalo Championship Wrestling, definitely quite the experience from everything that I've seen. And they have their own show right now, Lunacy, and there've been quite a lot of JCW in the wrestling independent wrestling headlines as of late, because I know not all that long ago there was that feud with GCW that was going on, and I've been lucky enough to have one person in particular that I know has been involved in JCW already on the show, and as of right now, I know they are this next person, Mickey Knuckles. I've had her. Well, I haven't had her on, but I know that I have her on the schedule coming up, which I'm very excited. I know she's coming back from Japan right now. I believe they should be on their way, at least, from all the posts that I've been keeping up with, being over there for Big Japan. Now I know JCW has had they've also been in the news lately with a few people that have come in. That being Vince Russo and the Vampiro, and I know there's a little shakeup right now with somebody that had won the title as a bit of a surprise, being Matt Cardona, now that he's signed with the WWE. What has it been like, being a part of all of that excitement? Because it just seems like right now, no matter what Juggalo Championship Wrestling gets their hands on right now, it just starts excitement to me.
Yeah, it's been surreal to me, and JCW Lunacy has been on a hot streak these past several weeks, and it's so wild to me to look across the room and see Vince Russo.
Yeah.
Better or worse, I grew up watching Vince Russo's fingerprints. Attitude Era, WCW, TNA. Vince Russo has helped shape my life, and
Yeah.
that can be a very heavy statement the more you think about it. But he is a lightning rod of controversy, and I think there are a lot of things that Vince has done that has helped the business. There are a lot of things Vince has done I think probably have not helped the business. But that's why he is who he is. He is very, very polarizing. And I don't think there's anybody that is familiar with his work that's going to go, Vince Russo, yeah, he's just all right. You either love him or you hate him.
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of middle ground gray area there. You definitely either love him or hate him.
But I'll tell you what, and this is something that I cannot say, in a lot of aspects of pro wrestling in present day. When Vince Russo's around, you're never bored.
You know,
Not for a second.
I I've always wondered, and you know what? He definitely comes across like somebody that definitely could be said about them.
Yeah. I mean, you could watch his programming and you can passionately love it. You could passionately hate it. You're not falling asleep. That's for sure. And Vince has come in with a lot of big ideas. Vince has come with the goal to get a lot of eyeballs on JCW, and he has absolutely accomplished that. He's had the goal to shake things up. He's accomplished that. He has injected life into the program, and um, everybody that is featured has a direction, has a goal, has a purpose, has some kind of objective, has some type of conflict. And again, hard to come by in televised wrestling in this day and age. And it remains to be seen what that ceiling is and what it brings. Um, there have been times I have been on the call for a match or a moment, and you just get that feeling. You're like, man, that was special. That hit right. Um, you know, a lot of times when I'm calling a match, I'm in the zone, you know,
Yeah.
and it doesn't really hit me unless it's exceptionally good or exceptionally bad. But there have been a couple times where it's like, man, like that. If I would have dreamt that, it wouldn't have come off better. Um, and there have been other times I've watched and I've thought like, is this a rib? I mean, we got a pole match. We've got Jasmine's got to strip to her bra and panties if her team loses. We've got it's whether you want to call it a Russo trope or whether it's Vince trolling the internet or whatever the case is. I mean, it
Yeah.
runs the gamut. But I can honestly say that I am just so immensely entertained by this whole process
Oh, I can
and
imagine.
everything that's going down, the power struggle with Vince and Violent J and Vampiro, and you got Big Vito being chased by zombies, and you got Kerry Morton shaking his crotch around like he's something special, and Matt Cross doing what he's doing, Willie Mack, Too Tough Tony on down the line, and the Cardona thing blindsided me to be sure. I just saw Cardona. We taped television. God, what was it? Under 3 weeks ago, up in Detroit, and Cardona was there defending his title, and I don't think anybody saw this coming. But at the same time, knowing the type of talent Matt Cardona is, the chances of it happening are never zero, right?
Yeah.
It can always happen. So, um, wish I had some kind of inside scoop to drop about what's next, but I'm waiting to find out like everybody is, and I
Oh
will
yeah.
when the next tour taping starts, and I get to live the rock star lifestyle and spend 2 weeks on a tour bus. That's another thing on the bucket list I never thought I would do, but JCW's given the opportunity to me, and I know one of the reasons I was brought to the company is because Violent J's whole vision was this is not meant to just be wrestling for juggalos. It's not meant to just be wrestling for ICP fans. This is wrestling that wrestling fans can enjoy. And I think the dynamic I have with Zach Amico on commentary is perfect because Zach very much looks like a juggalo, very much speaks like a juggalo, very much carries himself like a juggalo, and that stays true to the roots of that product. That's what so much of what that company was built on. And I'm the guy on the other side of the table that if you're a more traditional fan, I can come over, grab you by the wrist, and say, "Come on, it's okay. We won't hurt you. Come on in. It's okay to
Oh.
enjoy this. You're allowed." Because my first taste of wrestling and ICP, other than obviously their appearances on WWF, WCW, etc., but I watched Stranglemania and I watched Juggalo Championship Wrestling Volume One, um, back in like 2000, and watched it, heard the commentary, heard the brand of humor, and I get it. It wasn't for me. And
Yeah.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Um, that's not what that is anymore. There's
Oh yeah.
elements of that, sure, because it is over the top and the word lunacy is very apparent, but it
Yeah.
is not a product that is um mocking to wrestling or insulting
Oh,
to wrestling. At least I
oh
don't
yeah.
interpret it as that, and I don't think anyone involved does.
Oh yeah. I don't
Um
interpret it that way myself. Is much like you've been saying, it definitely comes across as a product that, yeah, you have the aspects of the juggalo culture in there,
well, and I
but
think the problem was that all of that when they were first starting and learning how to do this, that was sold in stores. I could walk to Sam Goody and buy that. You know, the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of units that moved. And back to what I said earlier about every show is a fan watching for the first time, that was their first impression of what that is. And they, obviously only a percentage of them were able to follow it in depth and find the live shows and find the streams and find whatever to see it evolve and grow into what it is now, which is a much more polished and mature and, you know, by the tenets of wrestling, much more sensible presentation, but is still over the top and in your face and outlandish to me in all the right ways.
Oh yeah, for sure. I definitely agree with you. And it's been a product that, out of stuff that, I have to watch for, just doing the podcast, it's definitely something that I'm definitely been searching out because, I'll hear or I'll see little clips here and there, and then I'm like, okay, I got to go watch that whole show because that just looks like something that would be entertaining as hell to me. So I'm like, I got to go see the whole thing.
Yeah, I don't think anything on JCW is going to compare um, any similarity to anything on any other wrestling show
For
because
sure.
Vince does not think like any other wrestling
Yeah.
official. Vampiro does not think like any other wrestling official. Sometimes not like any other human. Um,
Yeah.
and it's a much different presentation, and I think a lot of things that Vince did back in the day has been missing. A lot of the shows are too polished. They're too cookie cutter. Um, they're non-episodic. And one of the things you see on JCW is a lot of times something will happen in segment one and there's no resolution in segment one. Sometimes your resolution's in segment seven. Sometimes your resolution's next week. Um, but it's not like other shows where the top guy comes out in segment one and then he's done and you still got 2 hours and 45 minutes left.
Yeah.
There's a reason to stay tuned and be invested. And I think that has been very missing in modern wrestling. I think cliffhangers have been very missing in modern wrestling.
Oh, for sure.
And that's not even just a Vince Russo thing. That's I mean, how many times did Nitro end with Shivani screaming, "It's Sting! Fans are out of time," and then
Yep.
you're
All the
done.
time, man.
You don't have that anymore. Everything has to end so cleanly and so neatly, and it's wrestling. It doesn't have to be clean and neat. It is live. It is messy. Um, it is spontaneous. It's off the cuff. It can leave you angry, leave you confused, leave you wanting more. Those aren't necessarily bad things, and we're seeing more of that in JCW, and um, I can see it in my head. Like it's if I see something going on in the ring or backstage, like I don't see it live because I'm there on the stage, but I can see in my head like copyright 2025. Like this is the peak of the broadcast, and um, I don't know, just things like that. I mean, even when I was producing TV back in Ohio, like I always wanted to make sure I recognized where you when you hit your summit and get the hell out of there before you started falling back down the other side.
Hmm?
Um, these are things that the Vince Russos of the world understand, and I'm not a Vince Russo apologist, and I'm not a somebody that's going to give him a perfect score for every idea he's ever had, but um, there's a lot of things that he's done that I am surprised other people aren't doing, and you're seeing some of that spark, make its way week by week back into wrestling through JCW.
That you are. Now, I got two categories I round stuff off with. I'm going to start off with one, then I'm going to switch something up here because I do have another topic that we kind of mentioned you're involved in here that I do want to talk about, but we'll go with my first category here. A bit of a name game where I name off some people, you give me quick thoughts on them, and I try to theme it towards the guests as much as possible. And each of these people, there's four of them, have either been involved in Juggalo Championship Wrestling or MLW.
Okay.
First one, I kind of mentioned, well, before recording, I believe, about a rather entertaining intro this man did for the episode that I had him on for. Madman Pondo.
Pondo, anytime I see him with that table saw blade with the wood club on the end, you just feel a little uneasy. Pondo's reputation speaks for itself. He's a legend in Japan. He's a legend in the U.S. He's one of those guys you don't see walking down the street. There's just not another Madman Pondo out there, and
Oh, yeah.
I know he's been kind of in and out JCW the past year or so, and I think a lot of that's been documented. Violent J kind of had to fire him and Mickey Knuckles twice, and Vampiro has made his play to get Pondo back in, but Pondo is he's a positive addition to any locker room, and he is. In a lot of ways, I look at him the same way. Well, not for the specific same reasons, but I watch Pondo the same way I watch a lot of Terry Funk, in the sense that you can't look away because you don't know what's coming next. Genuinely.
Oh, for sure. Now, next one, somebody that you would have to say he's definitely one of the better big men out there, more agile, and well, Willie Mack.
Willie is the heart and soul. Him and Too Tough Tony, the heart and soul of the company. Willie is one of those guys who, if you are down on your luck or if you've got a dream and a goal that seems too big to attain, you look at Willie Mack, because Willie Mack, he doesn't have the body. He doesn't have the generational background. He doesn't have a lot of the gifts a lot of other people have, but he made it because of who he is and his ability and his merit. And the fact that a guy built like Willie can move the way he can, um, connect with the audience the way he can. There's such a natural likability and charisma where if you don't know wrestling and you're around Willie for 30 seconds, he's your favorite wrestler.
Oh yeah.
And he is repped so well as the JCW champion. I know there's a lot of wrestlers on the roster who would also consider themselves juggalos. Many of which before they ever came within a sniff of working for JCW, but Willie Mack may be the biggest juggalo out of all of Juggalo Championship Wrestling. If that's an honor that I can bestow to any one person, it might be him.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that. Definitely much respect for Willie Mack. Somebody, yeah, if I had a bucket list of people that I haven't had on the show yet that I like would one day want to have on, like really bad, Willie Mack's like damn near at the top.
Tell you what, there would not be a dull moment on the broadcast because
So,
he is entertaining just being himself.
oh yeah, that he is.
You
Now,
wouldn't even need to give him any questions. Just let him just muse about whatever's on his mind. That could be the whole show.
though that could be that. You know what? I have done that before with a few people where I just like, you know what? I just give some opening stuff and I'm just go.
Yeah, I don't know if any of it will connect or mean much of anything to anybody that doesn't follow Willie Mack, but you'll get some good gems in there.
Oh, for sure.
Anytime there's a group chat and I see a Willie Mack voice note, that's appointment viewing right there.
Definitely. Now, next up, a guy that I've been lucky enough to meet. Well, the next two I've been lucky enough to meet at least once, if not a couple times. Well, not at MLW, but at Sammy Callahan's promotion Revolver. I've been able to meet both of these guys there, but they are both pretty damn synonymous with MLW. One pretty famous actor in his own right as well, Paul Walterhauser.
Paul's cool, man. I've worked with him in MLW, and he's had some involvement behind the scenes as well as what he does on camera. And what jumps up to me about Paul is just the level of respect he has for the business.
Oh, definitely.
And how he carries himself with the guys. And you would look at Paul's resume and all the cool stuff he's done and the movies he's been in, and you might get a certain idea of what he would be like, of this pampered star that's going to need X, Y, and Z, and all of his needs met, and the private dressing room with the bowl full of just the green M&Ms and all of that. But Paul is nothing like that.
Oh, for sure.
If you if you're a wrestler and you meet Paul and you're not familiar with his work, you wouldn't know who he is. And I mean that in the nicest way possible. He doesn't give any type of vibe of I'm better than you or I'm somebody, so you need to treat me a certain way. Paul, he's a human being like all of us, and he shows everybody respect, and he deserves that respect in return. And some of the things he's done in ring, not wise for someone making the kind of money he does outside of wrestling.
Yeah.
But that passion is why he does it. And, I'm looking forward to see where things go with him and Paul London and MLW, because there seemed to be some frustration in that relationship. And
yeah, there is.
To those that don't know, Paul London trained Paul Walterhauser for the ring. So they go back a long way, and I love Paul London to death. So to be continued there. But
Yeah.
I just feel guilty every time I see Paul. It reminds me I haven't seen Naked Gun yet, and I haven't
I haven't seen that either.
I haven't seen Luckiest Man on Earth yet, about the Pressure Luck Michael Larson story. So I gotta work on those next time I'm on a long flight or something. I gotta put one of those movies away.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I know two of my memories of when I got to meet Paul Walterhauser. The first one was the first time that I got to meet him was the night that he ended up having Bully Ray come out, and him and Bully Ray end up putting Matt Cardona through a flaming table. And then the other was a match he had against Danhausen.
Wow, that's going from one extreme to the other, isn't it?
Definitely. Now, talking about Extreme and another, well, the last but not least on this list, I actually up top have his MLW action figure signed by him. Mads Cruel Kruger, current MLW champion.
Yeah, what an intimidating big man.
Oh, yeah.
He's somebody that has fully embraced who and what he is, and the presentation of Kruger, of Contra Unit. And again, you look at the athlete of the day. He's agile. He is violent. He is versatile. He can do anything. He's not afraid to bleed. He's not afraid to make somebody bleed. And it speaks to the effort. It speaks to the struggle. It speaks to the desire to be the best. Because, how many years was Kruger there when it was all about Alex Hammerstone or it was all about Jacob Fatu? And rightfully so. I mean,
Yeah.
nobody's going to tell those guys they don't belong at the top of the cards, but
Yeah.
that doesn't mean that there is not a very eager list right behind them,
Definitely.
chomping at the bit to take that spot. And I think Kruger, for a lot of years, probably saw himself in that position. And timing is everything. And to be able to take a title from Matt Riddle speaks a lot. Matt had a hell of a run for us, won 2 battle riots in a row, and Kruger's one of those guys. I feel like he's only really starting to come into his own, and it's dangerous because he's been damn good up to now.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. I still remember the night I got that figure signed by him. I'm waiting in the dang line, and like I get my first visual of him in person. I'm like, there's those people that, like, when you're waiting in line to meet him and you get that first visual and you're like, oh shit. He's definitely that individual.
Yeah.
Now, mentioned a topic that I want to talk to you about that, you and I we're both passionate about wrestling history. You're involved with the ProWrestlingLibrary.com. How did
Sure
that
am.
come about? And, what are you guys hoping to really get built out of that? Because there's a lot of footage out there that I can imagine hasn't really had a place on the internet that could be readily available to the masses.
Yeah, I mean, ProWrestlingLibrary.com was born out of really more than anything else, the events I was running and producing in Ohio. I had 2 different 6-year runs of producing events. We did television from 2007 to 2013. That was, Johnny Gargano's first TV matches. That was, young Matthew Justice, young Gregory Iron, Ricky Shane Page, the list goes on. And then I went back up there and did another project from 2015 through 2021. And I mean, just with those 2 companies by themselves, you're talking what would have been, I don't know, 400 hours more. So that needed a home. And between those 2 runs, I started getting into doing original content, doing documentaries, doing compilations, doing, God, I'd worked with AJ Styles in so many places. What if I take 12 of these matches and put them together and I interview them? The referee seminar we did with Jimmy Corderas, which I think was the first ref seminar ever in the United States. I did Zach Gowen's life story. I did the first big one I did was the Montreal Theory, which was a conspiracy theorist dream asking what if Brett was in on the screw job. I just had all these ideas for content that was very niche and very specific, but also was very evergreen and something that nobody was doing. And unlike an independent show where, okay, well, we're gonna record it on Saturday, we're gonna release it on Sunday, and then 3 weeks from now it's old news. Um, you can watch a lot of my stuff 5 years later and it still has the same effect. So that is what started the building blocks of Pro Wrestling Library and um, basically running an in-house business. And year over year, my DVD sales dropped because digital and streaming was taking command, and I was doing more and more business on my streaming and digital outlets until 2021 came, and I released the Brian Pillman Memorial Show anthology. And that was a combination of Les Thatcher, who promoted the events back in the day, 1998 through 2001, fundraisers for Brian's family. For those that don't know, Brian Pillman Sr. passed in 1997 and was beloved by everybody. These were the only events that had WWF, WCW, and ECW talent all appearing under one roof, one event, and was allowed to be filmed. Um, but the rights went back to the Pillman family and Brian's widow, Melanie. So certain things had leaked. People had seen like Chris Benoit versus William Regal, but they had not had a chance to see the entire shows unless you were one of those really hardcore tape traders and knew where to dig. So when Brian Jr. got into the business, I had a pitch for him. I got Les on board. Talk to your mom, talk to your family. Let's make some history. And DVD sales skyrocketed to the point that I couldn't keep up with them. And that told me the DVD market was still alive. I just had to find product to appeal to that type of person. I can't sell a DVD to a 12-year-old kid. I have no idea how, and they don't know what one is.
Yeah.
But I can sell it to a 45-year-old man. Absolutely. And with that, building relationships, whether it was with the great folks at the Savoldi Sabmar Library at Ultimate Classic Wrestling, whether it's with Todd Okerlund, whether it's with Harley Race's son, whether it's with Herb Simmons and the events he promotes down in St. Louis, on down the line. The more connections I've been able to make, the more footage I've been able to unearth. And my goal with Pro Wrestling Library is to have a home for all of the existing quality classic wrestling footage, not exclusively classic, but with an emphasis on classic footage, that is not owned by a billionaire. And, between Kansas City territory, Memphis territory, St. Louis territory, Detroit territory, Portland territory, ICW, Global Wrestling. There's so many companies and territories out there that were never touched by the big dogs that still have viable value, a lot of star power, and there are only really two ways to watch them before is you have to go through bootlegs and go through tape trading or go into the seedy underbelly of the internet and find them, or you have to be the type that's going to go through a streaming outlet like Ultimate Classic Wrestling, like Dave Parsons has a great one as well. I'm not knocking those platforms at all. They do incredible work, and they've been great partners and allies of mine. But my thought always has been, I don't want to watch wrestling through streaming and through my computer. I'm in my office. My back hurts. I want to lay down. I want a physical DVD to be able to hold. I want to be able to just pick up a copy of something and hold it in my hand, and it's mine. And this isn't just like a match I found on a YouTube link. This is 6 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours of like curated, selected content, already vetted in its highest quality that still exists. Oftentimes formatted in a way that tells a little bit of a story about the people or the time period of the promotion. And I just have such a passion for the parts of history that have fallen through the cracks and the nooks and crannies of it. And we've done sets on the Von Erichs and Andre the Giant and Harley Race and Ric Flair. And we did Eddie Einhorn's IWA, which was the first company to be nationally syndicated, and we just released an 8-hour set of Memphis wrestling. We did an 8-hour set of Kansas City wrestling, and there's so much more to come. And we're not just classic because we have sets devoted to AJ Styles and Samoa Joe and Johnny Gargano. And some purists will be upset, but our next one's on the Young Bucks. So I want to cater to every type of fan. And I want to keep physical media alive because there's no reason we need to be beholden to these big companies that can just add and subtract or edit at a whim. We need to preserve that history and keep it, and physical media it's not the only way to watch it, but it's certainly the only way to safeguard it.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and Pro Wrestling Library has, through that movement of people's desire to see more physical media, to see a convenient way to watch their favorites or watch important moments in history that they didn't know, that they don't have to spend a weekend down a YouTube rabbit hole to figure out. Um, that's boosted business in a big way. And DVD sales now are, with the exception of the Pillman year, which was off the charts, DVD sales are higher than ever. And with that, digital sales are up because people are talking about it. And my Facebook interaction, my YouTube interaction, it's gone sky high. And I thank everybody for that because that enables me to do bigger things and better things and take more risks and spend more gas, money, miles, time to try to uncover more footage. And there's people coming to me and saying like, "Hey, I got these film reels and I never could afford to get them converted, but do you want them?" And it's 5 years ago, no, but now maybe we can do something with this because there's viable business opportunity in this, and the bigger we grow, the more we can uncover. And it's just been such a passion of mine to be able to do. I work more hours a day than I ever have, but it doesn't feel like work because it's like a scavenger hunt.
Yeah.
I never knew that happened. Wait a minute. Roddy Piper said that you can't throw rocks at a guy that's got a machine gun 6 years before he said it on WWF TV. I never knew that. But like you find little gems like that you don't know. And for me, who has like micromanaged all the wrestling I grew up on, it's so cool to find pieces of history that um, I never knew about and to
Oh, yeah.
find a chance to unlock more. Like, hey, so and so, you've got a connection to this promoter's family. Can we get rights to this? And just keep building those relationships. Right now, we got 600 hours for sale. Um, to me, that's a drop in the bucket. I got so much more to add and so much more to do. And I just love that people are responding because it tells me that I'm doing the right thing. And if I keep down this path, it's going to hopefully keep paying dividends. But the audience is the one with the power. They tell me what's working and what's not. And especially this past 30, 40 days, I think has been the most consistent 30 to 40 days sales wise um, I've ever had. Taking out obviously like big spikes for new releases and stuff like that, but just
Yeah.
consistent sales wise, we're on a really good groove right now, and hopefully to continue. I've been
Awesome.
conceptualizing more and more. I'm juggling like 4 or 5 projects at once, and like we're doing Piper, we're doing Young Bucks, we're doing Detroit Territories, I'm doing secret things I can't talk about yet because well, I can't. I actually can. I own the footage now, but I just don't want to.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got some cool stuff going down, and I don't know. That's just my love letter to wrestling.
That's awesome. I love hearing about it. Now, my other category that we'll round it off with here, bit of some random questions, some wrestling related, some not really much to do with what we've been talking about so far, but that's why they're random. So I give you the question, first answer that pops in your head. Now, first one, having been involved in both MLW and Juggalo Championship Wrestling, among other places, I'm sure there's probably quite a bit to choose from here, but craziest in-ring moment that you've been there for the call.
Craziest one that always jumps out to me is one PW in England when Abyss choke slammed Ulf Herman onto a thumbtack covered flaming table.
Ooh.
And just the that was one of the few times at the time that I was right at ringside. I wasn't back in the tech area, wasn't up on a balcony. I was literally up against the ring apron, so I could feel the heat of the fire. Um, and I'm surrounded by 1,500 fans, and I can feel their energy and their noise, and just that moment and the ensuing chaos of like staff members with fire extinguishers and Abyss pushing people around, and just it was one of those moments where I have that like, what am I doing type, like in a good way, like what how did I get, what life choices did I make to where I'm
Oh, yeah.
here watching this. And if something had gone wrong, like, hey, we were all in the line of fire there. But I'll never forget feeling that moment and just the noise around me and the heat.
Oh, I can imagine. I've been close enough to some flaming table spots, and yeah, you could feel that heat for a little bit, but being like right there, right next to the ring, something else. I know one of the craziest moments I can remember, and I wasn't even that close to this moment happening. I just remember being at a Revolver show during their match where the way I likened it was like war games without the cage, like weapons, all sorts of stuff. Everybody had their entrances. They'd bring out their weapon, and at one point on the other side of the venue from where I'm at, all of a sudden I just hear what sounded like a gunshot, and I'm like, "What the hell?" And then my friend that I had with me at the show, we see footage later of a clip that it was basically Macklin swinging half a door at, I think it was, you know what, I'm forgetting who it was at the moment, but he was swinging half a door at a guy's head. Oh,
Yeah, you'll have that. That's
oh,
it sounds like a Sammy Callahan show, to be sure.
yep. It looks like I'm going to pause here real quick. So, all right, technical difficulties, that shit happens. But yeah, no, that was definitely one of my craziest moments I've seen. Well, I've been to no ring death match shows where I was thankful that I wore closed toed shoes because I about got hit in the foot with the metal connector end of a light tube. And yeah, I've seen some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Now, something that, whenever I talk to any wrestlers that are in the Juggalo community, the drink that always comes up, Fago. And they always act surprised when I tell them that I personally have not ever had any flavor. Now, my question for you, one, if you've tried it, and two, if you have your favorite flavor.
You're killing my street cred here, but I have never had. Well, I don't. No, it's not entirely true. I'm not a big soft drink guy. I'm not a
That,
big.
that's that's all right.
I'm not a big carbonated beverage guy. Um, there was a point, literally just the last tour. One of the wrestlers was. I was at a gas station with them, and they were buying Fago, and it was either a new flavor or a new flavor to them. And they like opened it and they were like, here, try this. And I took a sip of it. And um, I had no issue with it. I wasn't mad at it. But I don't remember what flavor it was. But yeah, if we're talking drinks, I'm a pretty boring guy. What can I say? Um, so I don't have a lot of I don't have a lot to say about it. I'll take a chocolate milk on the
Hey,
rocks.
nothing wrong with a good chocolate milk. I, I'm a bit of a Dr. Pepper fiend myself, so I am kind of a carbonated beverage guy. Although having been in the Navy and some of the sources of caffeine that I've needed, yeah, caffeine has been my friend sometimes.
It's understandable.
Now, we are not too far off of the Christmas season. I know I have my answer to this question of this, but what would you say is the best Christmas gift you ever received? Ever?
Ooh, 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 ooh. Um, I mean, we got to dip back into the old school, right? Like, it's got to be there. There's pictures of me as a kid, um, like 6 years old, 7 years old, and I've got like the Hasbro wrestling ring and like the toy microphone that makes the noises
Yeah.
and the wrestling buddies and like I just a cornucopia of like WF products and the VHS tapes. I still remember
Oh yeah.
opening the VHS tapes, and it's like I think that was like the early points of my life. I had some questions about the Santa fella. It's like if he's got all these like elves making these products, how does he have the officially licensed stuff? It doesn't make sense to me. And I wasn't thinking in those exact words back then, but I'm thinking like, well, the gimmick is that it's all supposed to be handmade, and it's like an elf made my like Skinner action figure. I don't understand that. It's confusing. Um, but yeah, like the holidays don't feel the same anymore. I think that's obvious. Um, but yeah, those early Christmases were special, especially because, I did not have um, a life that had a lot of extra expendable income in it. So when the special days came, and I'm an only child, so of course I got spoiled.
Yeah.
Um, those are really special. So I think back to those. I can't think of anything. I've gotten gifts recently, and I appreciate them. I'm not, stating otherwise, but like nothing to the magic of being a kid. Like that's where it's at.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, it's definitely for me become a little more special now having the little one myself.
Sure.
I know one that I will admit, looking back on, it'll always be one of the top tickets to my first ever, not only pro wrestling WWE show, but pro wrestling show in general. Back in Lincoln, Nebraska, at this arena that it doesn't exist anymore, but it was floor seats, not too far away from the entrance, and there was a couple matches in particular that I remember off the top of my head. One was the Head Shrinkers versus High Energy Coco Beware and Owen Hart. Being right by the entrance and seeing Owen Hart walk by and slap my hand. The other was Big Boss Man versus Yokozuna. That was something else. And actually, a couple of years ago at a convention, that first one, I actually got to meet Rikishi and get my Head Shrinker Fatu figure signed by him. That was
Very
something.
good. Very good. This late 1992 by the sounds of things
Oh,
in
yeah.
this story.
Yep, I believe that is about right. Yeah. And memory that I will always remember, and getting to tell Rikishi about him and him as a part of the Head Shrinkers being a part of the first ever event that I ever went to was something pretty cool.
Hell
And
yeah.
the same convention where I actually got a pro wrestling and Ninja Turtles was always my thing growing up. And I actually, in that same convention, got to meet the voice behind Michelangelo from the original cartoon.
Very good. Very good.
Memories I will always hold on. Now, last but not least here, because you kind of already answered one of my other questions of favorite drink. We talked about chocolate milk, but last question I have here. Best advice you have for anybody wanting to get into wrestling, regardless of the aspect of the business they're getting into?
My best advice for anyone is don't sell yourself short. Because I see so many people, and it blows my mind. And I'll try not to get back on my soapbox, but it blows my mind to see so many people get into the business, work their ass off in training, spend those months, work hard, crawl, scratch to their debut, have their first match, and it feels like they plateau there. I don't understand investing all of that time and money and pain, telling us it's your dream and you wouldn't rather do anything else, and not doing whatever it takes to make it. And to be clear, I'm not saying whatever it takes means like selling your house and disowning your family, but like go to the gym, jump in a car on a weekend and go help out, email some promoters, practice a interview, build a social media presence, like basic things that if you're quizzed on what parts of the wrestling business are, you should already know those are things.
Mm-hmm.
And I see so many people not do it.
Oh,
and
here we go again with the All right. We're back. So you're talking about your advice and
yeah, I mean there's so many people who get into it and I feel like they do not give it their all. And I think of the Dr. Tom line, there's three types of people in the world. The ones that try, the ones that give it their best shot, and the ones that do whatever it takes. I was a guy that will do whatever it takes. And that meant learning so many other aspects of the business. That meant running a business out of my house. That meant figuring out how to have 9 income streams instead of one. That meant immersing myself in this in every single way. And granted, like I said earlier, a lot of that doesn't feel like work. It is. Part of me is lazy. Part of me wants to just go nap and turn on like me TV, but that's just not how I'm wired when it comes to this business. I see so many guys who are just, the 40 milers as they're called, or they're just, happy being in the local hemisphere and either don't know how to get out, don't go to learn how to get out, don't try to get out. And I think some of it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Some of it, guys maybe don't believe in themselves enough. Maybe they can't see themselves in those spots, but like somebody's got to get a contract. Somebody's got to be on these TV shows. Why can't it be you? Because everybody that's on there started out similar to you. Okay, maybe Brock Lesnar didn't start out similar to you, but most of them started out similar to you. And I just see so many kids where it's like they wrestle once a month, or they are done training, and then that's the only time they're in a ring again unless they have a show. And just like I don't know how to explain the disconnect between me and those people, where you complain to me that you can't get booked, but you also have nothing unique about you, and you refuse to leave the city to even go meet somebody face to face. let alone actually um, invest in yourself to the point that there's immediate, value for somebody to see, to get a return on investment. It's people don't understand wrestling's a transactional business, and they say, promoter, can you please book me? And they say no, and they're like, oh, and they're sad and they take it personally. That's not what this is.
Yeah,
No doesn't mean no. No means not right now, but it's up to you more often than not to change it to a yes. Sometimes it's just timing. Sometimes it's I got 30 spots and 35 guys. I got nothing for you.
yeah,
Sometimes it's I've got my shows booked out until the first of the year. See me in 6 months. There's always a number of reasons, but I feel like guys and girls are so easily defeated and easily deflated. Um, if this is your dream, go at it hard enough to where when you're 60 years old, you know you did everything within your means to make it. Because I don't care how much self doubt you have or how much you second guess yourself, because it is easier to try than to prove it can't be done.
definitely. Great advice right there. Now, before we go, where can people find you social media wise? So if they don't already have their eyes on you and all the places you're going to be at and all the places in the future, where can they go?
Easiest places to go are prowrestlinglibrary.com. You can pick up some DVDs and some VODs. And my other website, joe-dombrowski.com. That's a more direct path to my DVDs. And I got a lot of like bio stuff, match history, things like that. I believe all my social links are on both of those websites. You can find me on Facebook, on Twitter, on Blue Sky, on Instagram, on TikTok, on Threads. Um, I may still have a live journal from 20 years ago. I'm not really sure. I may still be in someone's MySpace top 8. I don't know, but but yeah, I've got a YouTube channel as well that we have almost 14,000 subscribers at. So, um, a lot of my professional clips. There'll be some MLW stuff, some JCW stuff, obviously some clips from the library, the new products we're selling. I'm going to be on a big Memphis kick the next 2 weeks because I'm pushing that set. I just posted Eddie Gilbert slamming Jerry Lawler on top of a car today. So if you've never seen that, you know where to check it out now.
Definitely.
But yeah, you can check that out. And like I said, prowrestlinglibrary.com, 600 hours, no matter what kind of wrestling you're into. I defy you to not find at least one thing on there that piques your interest. So take me up on that challenge. Check it out.
Oh, I'm definitely going to be looking. I want to thank you for taking the time to talk to me tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure. It was so much fun getting to finally have you on. And I wish you well, MLW, JCW, and everywhere in between.
Thank you so much. We're only just beginning. Who knows what 2026 is going to uncover?
All right. Let's see if I have the same issue with this freaking button. Damn